Yosef and his brothers, starts to become now heated up, this whole thing, right? A lot of tension going on over here. So we're going to discuss all the tension that's going on. So, as we said, right, that Yosef HaTzadik started to play a game with them, right? This was a big con job they did with them, you understand? So, the question is, why would he do, we said, right, that he wasn't really interested in harming them. He wasn't really interested in taking revenge for what they did to him. That wasn't his intention. His interest was basically just to check them, he wanted to examine. What was he looking to examine? He was looking to find out if they did teshuvah or no. That was what he was looking to do, right? What does that mean? He wanted to see, right, that if they regretted what they did when they sold him, that sin now, they wanted to correct that, they want to make a tikkun, they want to rectify. So he pulled this con job on them in order to see if they did teshuvah or not. That was the whole thing, right? Now, how does that sit with you, by the way? Does it sit with you pretty good, this thing, or does it bother you a little bit, this whole thing, right?
Well, Reuben,
yeah.
He wasn't part of the plot.
Yeah, well, he wasn't, because you're right. You're talking about probably Binyamin, right? Binyamin certainly was not a part of the plot. But
what about Judah?
Yehuda was certainly a part of the plot.
Didn't he make it?
He was there. He was the boss. He was the king, right? He was the one who made up all the decisions. He was the one who, right, he was pulling all the strings. He was the one who pulling the strings.
But he was intending to save...
You're right. You're talking about Reuben, right? Probably that's what you're talking about.
Reuben,
yeah. Yehuda was involved in the whole thing, right? From beginning to end. He was there all the way through.
Both Reuben and Judah do something good to save Joseph.
Right, there was something good there, but the point is, right, in the end, they sold him, right? And that's what really happened. And so, the question is, how does it sit with you? Because with me, I'll tell you, it doesn't sit very good, this whole thing.
I'm okay with it.
You're okay, right? I'm not okay with this. You know why? Because there's something doesn't smell good over here. Understand? Doesn't smell good over here. This whole thing. What does that mean? Like the way he treated his brothers over here. Told them that you're spies and this and that, and he caused them all kinds of problems, all kinds of issues. Caused them suffering over here. They made them suffer. But not only that, right? If you really look at the whole thing, he also made his father suffer. Which was a very bad thing to do. Also. A lot of people don't discuss this issue, that really what he did over here caused the whole family to suffer. The brothers suffered greatly because of this. There was great shame. There was great embarrassment.
What about the embarrassment of selling him?
Yeah, okay, so if you forgive, you forgive, So,
no, it's not so simple. We have to do tikkun.
You know what I mean? Right, but tikkun, the question is, does this justify making a tikkun, all these things that he did? That doesn't sit with me very well, this whole thing, to be honest with you. What are you doing over here? You're trying to what? Give them a hard time, make their lives into hell, and say, I want to see if you did teshuvah. How does it sit with you, this whole thing? Does it sound right, this kind of thing? Would you do this to your brother? This kind of thing?
It's like making a test.
No,
yeah.
Joseph was on that level.
Yeah. Question is, if anybody's on that level, except God, maybe, you're trying to play God, maybe?
Maybe that's why.
Are we allowed to play God?
No.
Maybe that's why it's Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and not Abraham, Isaac, Jacob.
Oh, now he's saying something really good, you see?
And Ishmael.
That's the whole thing, The truth is, Chazal talk about this, what he's talking about is over here. They say that that really, the truth is that even though the brothers were all tzaddikim, but they were not on the level of the fathers, They were on lower level. And by the way, here we actually see, with all these things that happen with them, this rivalry and this, back and forth, tit for tat, all kinds of stuff like this. It's not really on the level of a person who's perfect in his deeds. A person who's really perfected himself, he wants to be, a real servant of God. He wants to be a really holy man. What kind of games is this kind to play with? This kind of games. Yeah. What's it to you? If you forgive them, you forgive them. If you don't forgive them, either one or the other. Choose your way. You can't have it both ways. If you forgive, so you got to forget also. It's like it never happened. If you don't forgive, so then say the truth. You don't forgive. What? How can you play this double entendre, this dual, two-faced game?
It's like the Pope in the
we have deal, right? Or one or the other. Pick your side. So the question is, it doesn't sit good with me, but the question is, how does it sit with the Chazal? With the rabbis? That's the question, right? What do they say about this whole thing? That's my personal problem, but what about them? Do they corroborate me or they don't corroborate? That's the question, right?
I don't know. Are they being lenient?
Right. So the answer is, to be honest with you, there is very strong corroboration for what I'm telling you in the words of the Chazal. There is very strong corroboration. You know what the Chazal say about this? They say that Yosef Tzaddik over here, if you ever notice, by the way, right, all the righteous men that we had, most of them, they lived a long life. We had Moshe Rabbeinu. Yeah. Okay, good. So Moshe Rabbeinu lived 120 years, and Yosef Tzaddik didn't make it to that. He only made it to 110.
I'll take 110.
You like 110? Okay.
There's a lady in Bolivia, she's 118. Hey, a lady in Bolivia, she's 118.
Okay, very nice. So the question is, right, like this, that if Yosef Tzaddik was such a big tzaddik, like they say, and he was, by the way. But the question is, why wasn't he zocher to live 120 like Moshe Rabbeinu, or 137 like Yaakov Avinu, or 175 like Avraham, or 180 like Yitzchak? It seems like something fell short over here, Something was missing, maybe, huh? There's a reason for that. So what is the reason? Actually, Chazal brings several reasons for this. That his life was shortened, 10 years. He lost 10 years. But one of them was, what? They say that they found over here a little bit of a sin over here. Not really, on our level, this wouldn't be considered a sin. But for him, the tzaddik, so it's considered a sin. So what was the sin? Now, let me explain to you what it was. Right? What happened was like this. Right? Yosef HaTzadik now gave them a hard time. He forced them to come back with their younger brother to show him the brother, and this was a very big grievance for the father, making him suffer. That he had to release his younger brother. He didn't want to release him. He didn't want to let him go, as we noted last week, right? We talked about this. So now you're forcing the father, Yaakov Avinu, to let him go. And he has to worry, and he has to be, guli usleba, for all that time that they're going to buy the grain and going back there and this. He doesn't know when he's going to come back alive. How does a father feel when he has to go through this? It's a terrible feeling, It's a living hell, basically. Not only that, we're going to see, right, also that he did another trick also, another stunt he pulled, which was what? He took Shimon and he put him in jail over there in Mitzrayim. He didn't let him go back with the brothers. Another stunt he pulled.
Well, Shimon and Levi were not so good.
They were dangerous, yeah. There's no question about that. They were dangerous. This was a dangerous game over here. But the point was that all this stunt that he pulled on them, he could have just sold them the grain, let them go back. What's it to you? Why do you have to put your nose into this whole thing? What does it bother you so much, I want to see if they did tshuva. What's it to you if they did tshuva? You have to be God? So the Chazal say, what happened was like this, right? The reason his life was shortened 10 years was because when the brothers came back, he forced them to come back again, which was a big grievance, a big problem over here. Psychologically, physically, emotionally, everything, this making them suffer. So what happened was that they came back again to buy grain. This time they bring back their younger brother. They bring back Shimon, and what happens is, now all of a sudden, right, they start talking with him, and he asked them, tell me, how's your father doing? Your father that you spoke about, is he doing okay? He was worried. He was genuinely worried about his father, But he was the one who gave him a heart attack, So now you're telling that you're worried about him. You just gave the guy a heart attack for what? Now you're saying how is he? Very nice. You're so genuinely worried about your father. So why give him a heart attack?
Why couldn't he notify his father during the time that he's okay?
He wasn't allowed to do that.
Send a messenger.
You know what it is? That they knew. Everybody here in this narrative knew that Yaakov Avinu wasn't supposed to find out. They knew that. It was something that they knew. This was something that was decreed upon him. But this was not decreed. This you made a decree. You understand? That's something else. You're making now a new decree over here. That has to worry about Shimon, has to worry about Binyamin. What's it to you to do all these things? Why complicate the matter so much like this, Make such a complication. So what happened was that he asked them, how's your father doing? So they said, your servant, our father, is doing very well, thanks God. So he heard this like 5 times. Your servant, our father. And he listened to all this, right? And he didn't object. What does that mean? What's there to object? Because when somebody tells you, listen, your father is your servant, a person should say, what do you mean my servant? That's my father. I'm his servant. He's my servant. So because of that, they found a way now to punish him in Shamayim. Right about this. What does that mean? That, you don't object when they call your father your servant. So now we're going to punish you. Shorten your life for 10 years. Because of that. You may say, the truth is, right, you can come and say, listen, what are you talking about? Come on, give me a break. This is all like a ploy over here. This is like a play. They're doing some kind of a drama over here, some kind of action, drama. So it's a part of the narrative that he has to say like that, because they don't know what's going on, right? They don't know that they're being conned. The whole thing it's all ploy, it's all con, it's a con job. So what do you really care if he doesn't object about that? It's a part of the narrative. It goes with the narrative. What do you care so much about that? So the answer is. The answer is really like this, that really the truth is that this was not, they found for him like some kind of excuse here to punish him. What does that mean? That the truth is that what caused all this punishment to come upon him? Because he made them suffer like this, to go back and bring the brothers again and this, and to cause their father to suffer and to cry and this and to worry. You don't behave like this, to your family. If you forgive, this is not the way you behave. I'm sorry. That's the way it's got to be. You got to be honest. That's the way it should be.
Only the truth will set you free.
That's it. So if that's the case, we see that Be'emet, in the truth, that what caused him to lose 10 years of his life, this whole game that he played over here, this con job that he did with them. What's it for you to con? This con job. What? You want to see if they did tshuva? That doesn't hold up, this excuse, to be honest with you. You know why? Because there's several reasons for that, right? You're not in the place of God. It's not for you to check if people did tshuva. It's between you and him and God. What's it to you? It's like, it's like,
mixing it.
Right, exactly. What's it your business? Put your nose in there. If they did tshuva, they did tshuva. What's it to you? What? You got to put you got to be, you're in the place of God? This is not the way that a Jew should behave. Even though the truth is, right, that they're, on the good side, to come to his defense also. There's also something, maybe to justify a little bit. What does that mean? The truth is, right, the Chazal tell us, Kol Israel Aravim Zelazeh. You know what that means? That every Jew is responsible for their fellow brother. Mm-hmm. I'm responsible for you, you're responsible for me, I'm responsible for you, you're responsible for me. That's the way it is. We have a responsibility for one another. Every Jew. We're brothers,
No, every human being.
It's not like, this guy, let him do whatever he wants. It can't be like that. You cannot say about your brother, let him do whatever he wants. You're responsible for him. What does that mean? You gotta watch out. Make sure he's on the right path. Make sure he's not going off, veering off somewhere, going on the wrong way. If you see that something like that, you have to object to that. We have an obligation to object. Where does it say about to object? It says in the Torah, right? Hocheach tochiach et achicha, right? What does that mean? You must rebuke your brother. You must rebuke. So if the Torah is telling you must rebuke, that means that if you see your fellow Jew sinning, you have to tell him, hey, Zmao, Ramochda, what happened? What are you doing? What are you making a mistake maybe, over here? What's going on over here? You know how far the Chazal say, by the way, right? It goes very far, this obligation. First of all, if you don't rebuke your fellow Jew about a sin that he's doing, you get punished too. Shem Yirachem.
No, what about?
They punish you too.
But even in general, every person
Yeah.
should be like this, you know?
Yeah,
You
but
want the others like
because
God,
we
not
Jews are all brothers, you understand? We have like a pact over here. We have we're blood brothers.
We're man.
You know what I mean?
We're man.
Yeah,
Man.
but there's man and there's man. You know, Jews are brothers. You know, we're all brothers. We have a common goal between us. You know, as opposed to the other people of the world that they don't have a common goal with us.
Also biologically.
Their goal is a different goal. But we have a common goal. We have a common purpose. So we must rebuke each other. So Torah tells you that what? If you don't rebuke your fellow Jew, you get punished too, because he keeps on sinning like that. You got to tell him something.
Chuck Schumer.
Cut it out. Yeah, cut it out.
Babe, are you sleeping? Just sleep already.
Okay, so what do you call it? So you know how far this goes, by the way? It goes pretty far. You get punished. What does that mean? That they say, oh, you know, he doesn't care about his brother. His fellow Jew doesn't care about him. Just lets him do whatever he wants. Can't be like that. There is one exception, by the way, to that rule. The exception is if you know for sure that he won't listen to you, you don't have to tell him anything. Don't waste your time, you know, with a rebellious soul, you know? Somebody who's a rebel. You know, rebel without a cause. If you know that he's like that,
Yeah,
I
but
knew the Torah would let me off the hook.
this is what moms do. This is what moms do to their momses. Okay? This is what
yeah.
they
What do they do? What do they do?
this is what the mothers do to
Yeah.
their kids.
Right. That they Yeah.
This game
sure.
of, you know, this is the same game that they play with
Yes,
you
you're
to make you
absolutely
feel
right.
guilty
Yeah.
and make you listen and make you
How
good.
do you know when to give up?
Oh, good. We're going to discuss that too. Let's discuss the whole thing, right? First of all, number one, if you know for sure he won't listen to you, forget about it. Just leave him alone. Because all it's going to do is cause trouble, you know? He's going to fight with you. He's going to fight with him. You're going to hate him. He's going to hate you. What's the point, you know? I'm talking to you about halacha. This is Jewish law, you know? This is not just suggested, you know? I'm not suggesting to you all this. I'm telling you, this is the law. That's the law. Now, what about if you're not sure? Right, he's going to listen to you or not. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. You're not sure. So then you're obligated to tell him.
You can
Right?
test them.
Right. But just one condition, right? When you tell him in a way which is acceptable to him, you know? Don't yell and scream, you know, cause him embarrassment, you know? Start, you know, with the, you know, giving him a third degree. Don't give third degree to people. Tell him, listen, you know, you're my brother, I love you, you know, I want to help you, so I'm going to tell you like this and this, you know? That's the way it is, my brother, you know?
Righteous.
Yeah.
So don't use the Georgian tactic.
Exactly. Don't now start, right, you know, with the red face, you know, the Amidor, you know, no, we don't want that. That's not what we want. Yeah. Becoming like a crazy man. You're going to embarrass him, so he's going to listen to you? No, he's not going to listen to you. He's going to go even further away like that. It doesn't make any sense to behave like that, you know? So you have to do it in a way which is, you know, sweet mouth, you know, sweet. Like candy, you know? Shh. You know, but I'll tell you a good advice that my rabbi used to tell us, Moreno Ben Rabbi, you know? Used to tell us like this, right? The truth is, the Talmud says something, there's a principle, it says, right, you're not allowed to compliment the wicked. What does that mean? If you know that a person is a sinner, right, and he knows what he's doing, right, he's not just, you know, some kid, you know, I'm not talking about that. He knows what he's doing, but he's a sinner, you know, he's a mafia guy, you know, gangster, you know, whatever. So a person like that, you're not allowed to give him compliments and say, oh, you're such a good guy. What are you telling him he's a good guy, you know? Well, he's a sinner, this person. You're not allowed to tell him he's a good guy. Why? Because what you're doing is, right, you're like affirming his sins, you know, saying, oh, you know, keep on sinning, go, keep going, you know. You're not allowed to do that. That's very careless to do that. You're not allowed to compliment the wicked. You know, the truth is, right, we'll discuss this a different time, but the truth is, it's a mitzvah to even hate them. You know, a person who's wicked is a sinner, you should really hate him in your heart. It's a mitzvah to hate him. But that's only if he knows what he's doing, you know, he's a sinner, he's a real sinner. But we're talking about a person, right, that if you really are not sure if he'll listen to you or not, so you must tell him. Now, the question is, right, the David asked this question, which is what? How far do you have to go, right? So the truth is, according to the Talmud, you got to go pretty far. Two opinions about the Talmud, right? One is until he curses you, you know? Until he curses you. And the other opinion is until he hits you, you know, gives you a smack on the face. Leave me alone. You know, you must even go.
Done it a lot.
You must even go that far. That's what the Talmud says. What's halakha, by the way? Which opinion? Until he curses you or until he hits you? Until he hits you, that's halacha. The Shulchan Aruch brought down.
So you have to bring them to that point.
Yeah, until exactly. Until he hits you. Ach. There's also a third opinion, by the way, which is brought down on the Zohar Kadosh. This is a more mild opinion, what the Zohar Kadosh says, you don't have to go that far until he curses you or until he hits you. Just rebuke him 3 times, 3 times, tell him. Once tell him in private, like, bring him, close, whisper to him like this, in private, so he doesn't get embarrassed, right? Second time, tell him in front of his friends. This is like a more higher degree, because it's a little bit of embarrassment there. But, we're doing that because privately he didn't listen to you. He didn't take heed. So next time, tell him like in front of the friends. In a private forum, right? Third time, tell him in public, like in the darbazi, to go into the shul, in Yom Kippur, 500 people there, and tell him, hey! That's the third time. Embarrass him, huh?
Then he's going to come up and hit you.
I don't know. We'll see. It depends on the character, right? Depends on the character.
What if the guy comes and starts shooting at people? People are sick. You got to be careful.
Yeah, well, you don't have to kill, you don't have to risk your life for that, Nissan. Nissan, you don't have to risk your life, right? We said until he hits you, not until he shoots you, right?
Maybe people come with AR-15, there's that.
Okay, Baruch Hashem, the Jews haven't gone that far yet. We're still not holding there, right? Baruch Hashem. Only if you're living in Florida, we have those issues, right? Or whatever. In Las Vegas, Florida, we have those issues over there. Okay, so anyway, Rabbi, Baruch Hashem, we still haven't gotten that far. But, so Zohar says 3 times. Once he doesn't listen to you 3 times, leave him alone. Let him go. God will take care of him, That's it. You did your obligation. Right, 3 strikes. Exactly. 3 strikes, you're out. That's it, no more. So we have 3 opinions, right? The truth is, what is the halacha? Halacha, I brought down the Rambam, like the second opinion in the Talmud, right? Which is until he hits you. That's really halacha. But some people say that in our generation, since people are very rebellious, they tend to not to listen to anybody. Leave me alone, what's it to you, buddy? Hey, it's a free country, bro. Get out of my face, What are you telling me telling me these things? What am I, your child? I'm your what? You're my father? Even you're my father I wouldn't listen to. Get out of my face. So if that's the case, right, that some say you should do like the Zohar, only 3 times. Because in this generation, like telling him until he hits you is maybe going too far, it just it's not very helpful. It's not very, in the old days, by the way, it wasn't like that. That's the whole thing, right? In the times of the Talmud, people used to rebuke very harshly, and they used to get scared, people would listen to that. They would say, hey, what are you doing? Give him like a hard time, and, get him, corner him, put him in the corner, talk, until he listens to you. Today, it's not like that, right? Today, people are like, just leave me alone, free country. Get out of my face, So nowadays it's a little bit different. Things are a little bit different. So some say, some want to say that do like the Zohar, 3 times it's enough. You did your obligation. That's it, right? The truth is, by the way, that the Talmud doesn't say like that, as we said, right? It says even 100 times you have to rebuke him. Even 100 times, even 1,000 times you got to rebuke him. But all these things, okay, very good. But the bottom line is that we see, right, that we are responsible for our fellow Jews. And a person cannot just say, oh, he's his own man, I'm my own man. It's not like that. Judaism doesn't work like that. We're a private club, it's a private family. We are responsible for each other. So, you make one come say now what? Yosef HaTzadik, maybe he did the right thing because he wants to make sure that his brothers, are in shape. They got back into shape after their mistake, after their blunder that they did. The truth is, that really we can't use this excuse for Yosef HaTzadik, to be honest with you. You know why? Because that applies to what? That applies to when, before the person sinned, that you want to rebuke him, tell him, okay, why did you do this, and so forth, so on. That's something else. Because you don't want him to sin again. Even if he sinned already one time, okay, now tell him, don't sin again, But really, it doesn't really apply this whole thing, right, over here. You know why? Because we have a Gemara. In the Talmud, it says something interesting. It says that if you see a Talmid Chacham, if you see a rabbi, right, a real rabbi, right, not just a money guy, money guy who wants to make money, make a career out of Torah, that's not a real rabbi. A real rabbi is somebody who's a real Torah scholar, it's a Talmid Chacham, somebody who sits and learns Torah all day, We're talking about a person like that, right? Not somebody who's just taking money from people, for this ceremony and that ceremony, $500 over here, $1,000 over here, but he doesn't have any Torah and doesn't own Torah knowledge. A person like that is not a real rabbi. He's a businessman. That's something else. Exactly. Talking about that. But anyway, Rabbi, getting back to what we're saying, that if you see a Talmid Chacham, a real Torah scholar, right, and he did some kind of a sin, you saw him, with your own eyes. Maybe. So what do you do?
You got to bring it up to him.
So you know what the Talmud says? Don't tell him nothing.
By night he'll make repentance.
Why is that? Because by tomorrow you can assume that he did tshuva already. What does that mean? Talmid Chacham, will do tshuva on his own volition. He doesn't need somebody to tell him anything, because he's a grown-up boy, right? He's very God-fearing. He's very knowledgeable. So you can assume that he will do tshuva. By the way, what are we talking about? We're talking about after he already sinned. Don't tell him anything. If you can prevent him from sinning, you should tell him. That's something else. We're not talking about that. That you must do. But we're talking about if you saw him do a sin, he already did the sin, right? So now don't tell him anything, because you can assume that in the morning he'll be back to normal, right? He'll be back. He'll do tshuva. He doesn't need you to tell him anything. So if that's the case, Rabbi, then what are we really saying? Same thing over here, right? What do you think? What? Yosef HaTzadik, we have to tell him. Excuse me, Yosef HaTzadik, don't you know that your brothers already did tshuva? They're Talmidei Chachamim, all of them Chachamim. They're not money rabbis, these guys, people who drive around and, they're not people like that. These are real Chachamim. So what do you think? Your brothers didn't do tshuva?
They're not of God. They're of business.
Come on, what do you think they are, They don't need you to play God with them. For sure they did the tshuva. And by the way, the truth is that they did tshuva. Right? They did tshuva. That's why they went there, to redeem him. They wanted to buy him back at any price, right? To pay any money, any amount of money to buy him back, to redeem him.
Why, when he asked them, where did you come from? They said, we're willing to redeem our brother at any cost. Why didn't he stop there?
Exactly. That's what he should have done. You're right. That's the whole point. Once he saw, right, that they did tshuva already, especially at that point, right? But I tell you, even before that, right? Why? Because we can assume that they did tshuva. You don't even have to ask them.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. All the more so at that point they should have stopped.
But it also goes like this.
Yeah.
It also like here, okay? So in order to have your congregation, and if they know that you are a person of God,
Yeah.
well then you don't need an IRS form. Okay.
Why is that?
Because otherwise that means you're in business and that you're not of, they would say Christ, you're not of God. Right?
Well, actually what you're saying is brought down in the Shulchan Aruch. It's brought down in the Jewish Code of Law. What does that mean? That it says over there, Talmidei Chachamim, they're exempt from taxes. You're not allowed to charge them taxes.
You have to prove anything,
Yeah.
because you are a church, a temple, whatever you are.
Yeah.
And your laws, the way you are, and even in our Constitution says that you do not have to have an exempt form,
right,
to get away from taxes. And
well, the truth is,
then if you're a business, then you need the tax form,
right,
and they're not of God.
Well, in this country, they do give some leniency to clergy. They do, actually, they do. They don't do that, right? They don't exempt them from taxes, but they do other things which are also somewhat, respectable, whatever. They don't go that far, but the truth is, according to halakha, right, Talmid Chacham is not supposed to pay taxes. And if you're taking taxes from him, you're stealing from him. It's like gezel, you're a thief, It's, okay, whatever. That's not a different discussion. But anyway, the point is, over time, that Yosef HaTzadik over here really did not behave properly, according to what we just said, right? And this is why he lost 10 years of his life. I'm sorry.
If you have a store and Talmid Chacham comes to you to buy something, can I charge him sales tax?
It's not sales tax. It's the taxes from the
Any tax is
temple.
exempt.
That's very interesting what you're saying. It's a really halakhic question what you're asking. But the truth is, right, that we need to think about that. That's a question that needs to be thought about a little bit. Right, what you're talking about. Anyway, the point is that this requires some thought. We'll leave it open question, right? Interesting question. It is a very interesting question. Anyway, the point is, Rabbi, that Yosef HaTzadik over here, he caused them tremendous suffering. So what are we saying over here, right? That what did he do? He tells them like this, right? After they told him the whole story, we have this brother and that brother, and this brother got lost, and this brother is at home. So what does he tell them? He now cons them, right? Tells them, oh, you know what? You said that I suspected you guys are spies. But if you want to prove yourselves, there's only one way to do it, right? Which is what? Bring your younger brother over here. I want to look at him. You said you have a younger brother at home. If you bring him here, so then I'll know you're telling the truth. Then I know that you're not playing games with me. That's what he says, right? So what does that mean? They have to go home now, right? And tell this to their father. And this is going to cause him tremendous grief and anguish. Put him in a very difficult situation. By the way, it could have killed him also. He could have died from this. Could have had a heart attack, God knows. So, this is not really, the way to do things, to be honest with you. I'm being a little bit harsh here with the way I'm dealing with this, but I think that there is a point to be made, that this is not the way to behave.
Live and let live.
Exactly, live and let live. Even though the truth is, right, that they did a very big injustice to him. It's true. They did him a tremendous injustice. But if you forgive, you forgive, if you say you forgive, so forgive all the way. Why do this kind of thing?
So it's forgive but not forget?
Yeah, exactly. There wasn't, the second part was not fulfilled.
And he wanted to prove them that everybody eventually going to go bound.
Right. So, the point is that, no, they already bowed down, right? That already was fulfilled, right? They already bowed down.
Megalomaniac. Next.
Not exactly, right? We can't go that far, right? We can't call him a megalomaniac. They already bowed down to him. That's not the issue. He didn't really care about that. But he wanted to see if they did tshuva. Anyway, the point is, Rabbi, that tells them now, right, like this, right? Oh, okay, bring your younger brother. So, but you know what he does, right? He does also here another thing which makes him crazy, which is what? He takes Shimon and he says, you know what? He's gonna stay with me, one of your brothers. I'm not letting him go. Why not? Why don't you let him go? So the truth is, right, that he had his own personal reason why he didn't want to let Shimon go, right? What did the Chazal say, by the way? What was the reason? The reason was because he knew that Shimon and Levi were the instigators of all the problems. You understand? They're the ones who instigated that he should be sold, and they're the ones, right? And by the way, Shimon was the one who pushed him into the pit when they sold him. So Shimon had probably the most liability here out of all the brothers. He was the one who pushed him in. He was the one who instigated this whole thing. So Yosef HaTzadik knew that if he lets Shimon and Levi go together back home, right, they're probably going to plot against him to kill him.
Shimon and Levi were responsible for the death of that town that Jacob...
Right, they also did that, right, exactly, they also did that.
Troublemakers.
We always spoke about that, they're troublemakers, yeah, they were troublemakers, there's no question about it. They were major troublemakers, these guys. So what happened was that Yosef HaTzadik said, you know what, these guys are probably going to plot to kill me, right now. They're already looking at each other. I already see eye contact, They're going to say, let's go.
We'll mug them after
that. Yeah, exactly. We'll take care of them. Right now, we'll do the job. And they had the power to do it, by the way, also. So it wasn't like they didn't have the power to do it. They had the power to do it. So Yosef HaTzadik said, you know what? I got to separate these two. Because if I keep it together, I'm finished. They're going to finish me off. So what does he do? He takes Shimon and he says, oh, you stay with me, my son, and your brother can go home. Because you know why? He told them for a different reason. He said, you know what? I have to have collateral, you know what I'm saying? That you guys are going to come back. You're not going to cause me problems over here. You guys are spies. I suspect that you're spies. So I have to hold one of you until you prove that you're honest and straight with me. That's what he says, right? So what does he do, right? He says, you know what? He calls the officers, right? And he tells them, okay, put this one in jail, right? Lock him up. Lock him up. So what happens is like this, right? That Shimon hears this, right? Lock him up. So he tells them, you're going to lock me up? He says, let's see you. He says, let's see you're going to lock me up. So what does he do? He says, you know what? I'm going to show you now who's boss. So he starts he lets out a big scream, right? Like a high-pitched voice, right? So what happened was that this scream was so loud, the whole palace started to shake, right? This guy was so strong. And then what happened was the teeth fell out. Give him a kick. The teeth fell out from the officers, right? From fear and from the all that vibration, their teeth fell out and they all fell into the ground. All the officers that were supposed to arrest him. He made a big yell like this, So the whole place became like, tumult over here. Oh, says, you're going to put me in jail? Let's see you. Now I'll show you who's boss. So what happened was like this, right? That Yosef HaTzadik sees that there's no way to put this guy in jail. These officers, these Egyptians, are not able to touch him. They don't have the power to touch this guy. So what does he do? He says, okay, I have a remedy for that too. By the way, you should know that when you play around with the king, he always has ways to get you. Don't play around with presidents and kings. You're trying to they have ways to take care of you. Tell to Trump. He will take care of them. Believe me, Trump will take care of those people. You think that he's going to let them just fly away? No. You don't play around with the kingdom, with the government, with the feds. You don't play with the feds. You play with the feds, you're playing with the Satan, He can get you. No, don't play around with that stuff. So what does he do? Right? He has also a way to take care of that. So what does he do? He calls his son, right? Menashe, right? Now, what's the story? The Menashe here, right? This boy was born to him in Egypt, right? And he was with him in the court over there. He was just like his chief of staff over there. You understand? Very interesting, right? This guy's chief of staff. Why? Because he's only 6 years old. He's a child. You understand? 6-year-old kid. And he's running the show over there, for Yosef HaTzadik. And by the way, this guy was like, we're going to see, right, that he was fully grown and strong, because otherwise he couldn't do what he did. So what does he do, right? He calls Menashe. He says, lock him up. So Menashe gave him like a big chop, a karate chop on his back. Bah! Like this. Took him and put him in jail. Okay? That's what he does.
How can a 6-year-old born in Egypt from the family of the Hebrews match in strength?
So what was the whole story over here, right? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Are you talking about Joseph's son? Or
Yeah.
Joseph's son?
Yeah. Menashe. Right?
How can he combat against a warmonger?
So what's the story? The story is like this, right? That you should know that the forefathers, right? The tribes, they all had physical powers, very, very supernatural powers.
Each of them, yeah.
That's what it was. You understand? By the way, what gave them these powers? You should know, right? You should know what gives a person this kind of power. What gives you such a power like this? The devil, right? So you know what it is? They say Chazal, by the way, that when a person is a son of a righteous person, of a righteous man, so he's given 3 gifts, because he has the merit of coming from a righteous person. So Yaakov Avinu, who was the most righteous man, right? He was their father. You understand? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives to a person like that, the son of a tzaddik. Tzaddik is, he gives them 3 things. One is physical power, physical prowess. Number 2 is beauty, and number 3, wealth. He gets 3 things. But just because he was zoche, he merited to be a son of a tzaddik. You understand? So since they were the sons of Yaakov Avinu, who was the most righteous man, this had supernatural powers because of that. That's the reason. That's one reason, right?
Each had their own aspects, right?
Yeah. So there's another thing, right? Which is what? That there was also another reason why they had powers like this. You should know that what really gives a person this kind of supernatural power, there's one thing only, right? Which is what? He has no sins. Doesn't do any sins. A person who's perfectly righteous, he has no averot, he has no transgressions, he gets supernatural power for that, right? Where do we see that? From David HaMelech, right? David HaMelech had supernatural power. He was able to go out in war, right? With his bare hands, with a sword, and kill 800 people in one shot. 800 people, can you imagine?
Like a ninja.
Right? Who can kill 800 people like that in one battle? David HaMelech was able to do that. Why is that? Because he had no sins. And by the way, he says, right, in the Tehillim, in the Psalms, he says over there that really the truth is that, what does it say in the Torah about a person who's righteous like that? That every time he goes out, he kills 1,000, not 800. It says in the Torah, right? So the question is, if it's 1,000, then why was David HaMelech only able to get 800? That's the question, right? So you know what the answer is? He says, right, he himself says, David HaMelech, the only reason I was able to get 800 only is because I have some traces of sins, slight transgressions I have. And because of those things, they hold me back from killing 1,000. Otherwise, I would be able to get 1,000 in one shot.
I lost 20%.
Yeah, exactly. 20% got lost. So what does that mean? You see from there that the physical power comes from righteousness and from being the son of the righteousness also, right? Son of the righteous. So because of that, all these tribes that had supernatural powers, and Menashe was also in that club. Why? Because his father was a tzaddik, his grandfather was a tzaddik, his great-grandfather was a tzaddik, his great-great-grandfather was a tzaddik. They all come from tzaddikim, and he himself was also perfectly righteous. So therefore, these people had supernatural powers. This is the reason why. You understand? So Menashe was able to do like to Shimon, just like he was able to do to those people. You know, in other words, they had the same. There was the same one family. You understand? One situation. That's what it was. So now, right? Shimon is in jail, so they have to go back home. Missing now another brother, right? Yosef already got lost. They think he's lost, right? And now Shimon is also lost. And now going back home, right? To do also to bring Binyamin, right? To lose another one, right?
Why didn't they didn't they go to war with them when they shot Shimon?
Good question. This is a very good question, right? Let me try to explain to you, by the way.
They didn't show all these little details on the TNT.
YouTube was on.
Well, you know, what I recommend to you is don't get your Torah from Hollywood.
Yeah.
That's not the place to get your Torah.
I watched a good film about
right? Not from Hollywood and not from the
forgiveness
right.
and total.
And also not from that Italian producer, right? That famous guy. What's the name again? The Italian guy who does the productions. He does biblical movies. Whatever. Anyway, point is right that you don't get your Torah from these people, right? You got to get your Torah from the real sources. So the point is, Rabbi, that now they're going back home. Missing two brothers already, you understand? This is like a big disaster. So they go back, right, and they're discussing on the way back, right? They're saying, Reuven comes and says to them, right? You see what happened to us? You know why? Because you didn't listen to me. I told you not to sell our brother, and because we sold him, now all this is happening to us. I told you not to do it.
You're not allowed to sell. You can't sell another person.
You understand? Yeah, you're not allowed to.
Not allowed.
Right? This is one of the 10 Commandments, right? Do not steal, right? When that was talking about stealing a soul. Stealing a person, it's talking about 10 Commandments, right? So what happens is like this, right? That Reuven says, you see, what happened now? Because I told you guys not to do this, to pull out the stunt. Now we're all paying for that. You see what happened? So I want to answer your question, right? Regarding this, your question is a very good question, which is what? That why didn't they attempt now, the brothers, to get him out, right? Now to make an attempt, right? To spring him, whatever. If they had such great powers, so why didn't they do it?
He got sprung.
So you know what the answer is? The truth is, right, that this was a consideration that you don't resort to, this kind of supernatural ways of doing things unless there's no other choice. That's the you understand? In other words, they still had a natural way to deal with this problem by bringing their brother, and maybe, they didn't know what was really going on.
They came to Egypt with the agreement that they're going to go to war if they can't find Joseph.
Yes.
So now Shimon's being caught.
Not that if they can't find, if they find them and to get them out. That's what they said, right?
Get him out.
Right. But the truth is, right, that they said to themselves like this: listen, if we bring our younger brother, that's what he wants to do, right? He wants to see the younger brother, right? He wants to be Binyamin. So if we bring him, everything will be okay. So there's no reason to resort. And by the way, there was also another reason, which is brought down in the Chazal, which is that what? They didn't really want to destroy Mitzrayim, right? And the reason is because Mitzrayim at that time was feeding the whole world, right? It was a breadbasket of the whole world. You understand? So you cannot destroy the place which is feeding you, right? There was all kind of considerations like that. So they were only willing to do that as a resort. Meaning what? That if they come next time, right, and they're not willing to let them go, so then they did resort to that, right, as we see, right? They were willing to resort to that. But only as a last resort, because a person is not allowed to use supernatural powers, if he has just a natural way of dealing with something, according to laws of nature. Understand? That's by the way, there's a whole discussion about that. I don't want to get into it now, but it's also very, very, very. It's also very pertinent to the laws of Kabbalah, right? The people who learn Kabbalah, they are people who are really, strong in that. They have all kinds of ways to do supernatural things. Okay, to pull off miracles. They can say the names of God, do this miracle and that miracle. But the truth is, right, that they're not allowed to do that for just normal daily life, unless they have no other choice, as a last resort only. Right? You're not allowed to use these powers just to, to have a good time, to enjoy yourself. It's not really.
Is that using exorcism?
I'm sorry?
Is that used in exorcism or no?
Yeah, if you need to exercise, yeah, there is ways to do things like that. Sure. There's no other choice. Yeah, sure.
Is meaning exorcism meaning like when the soul, when a demonic soul captures?
There's something in Kabbalah which is called a dibuk. You know what's dibuk? That means that a foreign soul comes and clings to you, right, and latches onto you and doesn't want to let go.
An entity.
Right. It's a soul. It's a soul of a human being.
It's almost impossible.
So this dibuk is has to be exercised.
Right.
There is such a thing like that, right? Let's not get into it now. Right? It's not the time to talk about that. But anyway, the point is that if a person has no other way except supernatural to get him out, so they do something like that. The truth is, what they do is that first of all they speak to him, to this person. He's a soul, and try to convince him to leave. That's the first resort. They speak to him and they say, "Why are you clinging to this person? Why? What's the reason?" They usually have a reason for that. By the way, why they're doing that. They're like they have a desperate situation. There's some kind of desperation there. That's the reason why they do it.
How do you know when this happens to you?
Because you have like some voice which is talking inside of you, and you hear him. It's like you notice like something is inside there,
Yeah.
It's like a person who has like let's say a worm inside his body, right? He feels it. You know what I mean? You feel that worm, jumping around sometimes, going here and going there. You start to feel something. You have parasite inside of you. So the same thing over here. Understand? You feel a foreign entity, which is which is bothering you. Holding on to you, latching on to you.
Yeah.
So it's a very. By the way, this is something which actually happened recently. In several cases in Israel, there were cases like this, where somebody had like something like this. And then they came out and they said maybe it was a fake. I don't know, whatever, all kinds of things. They're also fakes. I know
there's been rabbis that do exorcisms.
Yeah, the truth is, it's very rare. Right? It's a very rare thing.
Do that kind of thing.
Exactly. So the point is, right, that anyway, the point is, but getting back to what we said,
cannot exercise nothing in life. He cannot even exercise his own soul.
I don't know, but they do it.
A person is not allowed to do these kinds of things unless there's no choice.
Right.
So what happened was they went back. They wanted to play the game according to the laws of nature, That's it. So they went back and, they're discussing this whole thing, right? We sinned, this is why it's happening to us and this and that, right? Okay. So what happens is, right, they stop off at a hotel, right? Motel or whatever, Holiday Inn. They stop off somewhere to sleep for the night. So they go into the Holiday Inn, and each one, right, has like a big sack of food because they sent with them food to take. Why? Because they said, listen, we'll send with you food, but on one condition, right? You got to leave one brother over here, as we said, right? Because we have to have collateral, that you're going to come back, right? No games. And they paid for it too, by the way. They paid for the food. They gave them money. But what happens is, right, each one has a sack, big sack of food. So when they stop over at the Holiday Inn, they're opening up the sacks, right, to eat a little bit also, to have a little snack. You got to eat something. So what happens is that they notice, right, something very, very strange over here. Oh, what's so strange? That all the money that they paid for the food is given back to them in their sack. Right?
Oh.
Right? It was reimbursed, the whole thing, right? They got a reimbursement, so they got the food for free. So you may think, oh, this is actually a very good thing, it's actually something really, really good. But it's actually not. Why not? Why not, Nissim? What's the reason why it's not so good?
Now you're in favor. There's something going on here.
They got the kid.
Well, what's going on?
They got the kid.
They got the kid. Right. So you know what it is? Once they saw that, they were totally in shock.
I bought your brother from you for that.
You know why? What's the reason why they were in shock? They said, oh, you see what they're doing now? They put the money back in order to, bring up a pretext for us, to frame us. Understand? That's the game that they're
So they stole it.
Yeah, they stole money from us. And now when we go back, you know what's going to be, right? They're going to put us all in jail.
Right.
So now they said, oh my God, you see, so you know what they said? They said, what did Hashem do to us? What did God do to us? Oh my God. Are we that guilty? We didn't know we were that bad. Because now we see, right, that things are going all the way the wrong way, the wrong way, right? So this is a very dangerous operation. We're being framed over here. They're looking to frame us. So they're like, their hearts are like falling inside their stomach, in their pants, So what did they do? They have no choice. They went back home, brought the food back, right? So they come back home, and all of a sudden they see their father. So their father tells them, "No, where's Shimon? What happened? He stopped for a pit stop somewhere. Where's my son?" So they said, we got to tell you the whole story over here. This is a very,
Sit down.
it's not a pretty picture over here, right? Yeah, have a seat, hold on good. So they tell them the whole story. What happened? This, that, whatever. So Yaakov Avinu looks at them. He says, "I can't believe this." He says, "This is a disgrace. What did you just do to me now? This is already my second son that I'm losing. I lost Yosef. Now I'm losing this son too, Shimon. What is going on over here?"
That's why
So
it's good to have
you know what he said? So you know what he said? He said, "What did you do to me? Right? This is the second time you messed me up." So why did he say that, by the way? Why is he blaming them? But they told him that Yosef HaTzadik was killed by a wild animal. So why is he blaming them? So Chazal say, you know what? That really the truth is that he suspected that they were responsible for everything. Right? Exactly. They were the ones who got rid of Yosef, and now they also got rid of Shimon. So he said, so now what? You're trying to do another stunt on me like this? He suspected them.
Like a conspiracy.
Yeah. Suspected. So he tells him, he says, what am I supposed to do now? How am I supposed to live like this? 2 of my sons are gone, and now you're telling me what? That he wants to see Binyamin? You want to take also Binyamin? Now you want to take a third son? What do you think? What do you think this is, a game? What kind of games are you playing with me? So they're like sitting there, the brothers like all in shock, oh my God, this is like a very ugly picture over here, right? Very, very ugly. So what happens is,
No, but it's fine.
what time is it, by the way? Should we stop? Should we stop?
No, it's 9.
What is it?
When
9
do we
o'clock?
start at 8?
We start at 8 o'clock, about 8 o'clock, yeah.
I have to live and I don't want him to walk.
Okay, so should we stop here?
let's stop.
Okay, so Rabbi, we'll pick it up next time.
What time?
God bless you. Thanks for coming. Let's start at 8 o'clock next time.
Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. Yeah, also next Tuesday as well, right? Yeah. God willing. All the best to you. Thanks for coming. All the blessings to you.
Start at 8 o'clock now?
So we didn't talk about the good stuff.